Good evening, everyone. We're very happy to see you all today for the information session of RI Kids 2021-22. It's been a very interesting year for all of us with everything shifting online. So this year, keeping in mind all the safety precautions, we've also done the RI online. The informations and the questions, whatever you have, would be answered today by John, who's representing MIT. Let me quickly introduce him and then we'll dive straight into the session. So John Marenzana is a meeting design and production innovator, including both in-person and digital formats. His long-time history includes work with global companies like JP Morgan Chase, law firms White and Chase, MIT, and many more. John's expertise is to conceptualize and assemble a world-class team of collaborators to deliver outstanding results. For the EO program, John leads the content, design, and production team to include MIT Game Lab, MIT Media Lab / Scratch, and App Innovator, and Scott Novice, a former Disney game creation expert and founder of Bravos, a company with focus on the game experience for children. Scott is also an EO member. So welcome, John. We're really happy to have you here. And of course, all the wonderful support that you've given to EO and the RI committee. I'm sure the parents are excited to see what all we have designed for them. And they're keen to ask and interact with you. So over to you now.
Wonderful. Thank you very much for that introduction. And hello, everyone. Good evening. I'm delighted to be with you all this evening and talking about what we've assembled and what we're proposing as a wonderful experience for the children. I'm going to take us through a series of slides, and I know we will have some time at the end for Q&A, but if you have any questions coming along, I know you have the chat feature, so please feel free to put things in there, and then we can try and respond to them as we're going through. Okay. So we're going to open up and share our screen here so we can give you an opportunity to take a look at some of the material that we have put together and take us through the process of what is the EO Game Challenge, the Game Creation Challenge. Okay, so we should have our first slide up there, which is just to give everyone an opportunity to log in and see what's there. In terms of the overview, we really have a combination of various entities in order to bring this all together. I am here at MIT Endicott Beyond, and as our partners, we have MIT Media Lab and, of course, the MIT Game Lab. And we brought other collaborators in order to make this a stellar kind of experience. I wanted to take just a couple of minutes to share a personal story so you understand I'm not here just to try to pitch what we are doing. I'm here to talk to you as a parent, both a parent and also a 40-year incurable entrepreneur. Yes, I'm presenting the game challenge for your consideration, but I'd like to share a personal experience that my wife and I shared as parents, and we had to do some outside the box thinking. Our daughter was 13 at the time, just went to a boarding school, and she got back to us and said, "Mom, Dad, I really want to play hockey, ice hockey." Now, she had never played ice hockey in her entire life. We had no idea where this came from, but we wanted to encourage her to think outside and experience outside the box. So we were eager to support her. We were also very concerned on how would she succeed in competing with highly experienced hockey players. So similar to what we all are facing here today as you consider this game challenge for your children, we looked at what was to be the best path that we could guide our daughter Alicia through. So we did our research and we found a Canadian hockey camp. Our concern was that the camp was 95% young men and they were playing differently than the way girls play, which is there's no checking with young women, but there is checking. But we did register and there was a significant financial investment, both from travel and lodging and the camp tuition for a week. But the experience, however, in our view, was priceless because day after day, as Alicia came back to the hotel, her feet were blistered, they were sore, and then the only way she could go the next day is we used something called second skin to kind of firm up her feet. She got back in there and she learned to play with the young men, learned to understand the game. And she also learned both college skills and life skills and lessons, in our opinion, which was tenacity and focus, and essentially where to find that inner strength when she needed it. And I think that's what we entrepreneurs call grit and determination. So it's with that perspective that I'd like to just share the presentation today of how we think that the game challenge will help the kids to learn another perspective of how they can be successful. So the purpose of today's call is to talk about what is the game challenge, how does it work, and how will it benefit your children, the mechanics, how will it work, the roles that the children will be playing. This is not a passive activity, it's interactive. It's a virtual delivery. We're all faced with that at the present time. So we've got the experienced team to make sure that we do that well. We are suggesting that we'll be providing pre-workshops. What kind of time is required for that? And we'll go over that activity towards the end of this presentation. And then finally, it's not just dropping the children into an experience, but also we will have a team of coaches and mentors to help and guide the kids through the experience of learning, experimenting, making mistakes, going back and doing it again, and being able to learn as kids, how do you work with what we now call as entrepreneurs a consultant? How do we work with mentors to learn and grow? Because that's really what this is all about. That, of course, is showing children all in the same place. It's not a reasonable or something we can do during this pandemic, but working with Bravos, we have an alternative to that in the virtual world.
Wow, what a setup.
So we can see that it's not just the game itself or learning how to build a game, but it's also the excitement that we bring to this kind of a program that will make it very fun kind of thing. So I'd like to just ask Maren's help. We were going to do a quick poll here in terms of how many of your children have been on a non-school online learning environment. So we're looking at never, once or twice, or more than 4 times. We're just interested to understand the experience that both you as parents and the children have had in this kind of experience. So as we go through here, we'll understand better how to address these questions. So we see that roughly about a third, about 40% so far have not been involved in it. Once or twice is about a third, and more than 4 times, about a quarter of the people participating in this call. Super. Thank you very much, Maren, for that. So why is the game challenge important? That's the question that would be in my mind if I were taking a look at this for my daughter or my son. So here's something interesting that we thought was very helpful in terms of understanding from a little kid's point of view. He's teaching his dad all about it.
Hey Dad, look what I did.
Oh, what is this?
I can use Tinker for this because it's really easy.
I'm a teacher, and one of the reasons I like Tinker is that my students are learning coding all by themselves.
Once he got started with the modding, he got so excited about the other aspects of coding.
It's a laser game, and I also can change it so like when I press this, it can music 2 now instead of 1.
I can make my own games.
The modules are visual, they're age appropriate, and they're interactive, much like playing a video game.
There's a lot of stuff that I've learned.
It's really easy to use because You can code, you can make your own mods, you can make your own servers.
They're learning computer programming, and my daughter's already on devices all the time.
My students are only 9 years old, and they are already doing amazing coding projects.
Tinker is really fun and really easy. You can learn coding in a snap.
What I like about some of these things we're showing you now is it's not just young men, but it's young women who are enjoying the experience.
I was searching for interactive programming language on the internet, and I came across Scratch. As soon as I shared my first project, I got instant feedback, and I was like, okay, I want to continue with this.
I remember my first project was a super simple animation. I'm still actually really proud of my first project. It opened my eyes to the different possibilities that coding can present.
So I've been drawing basically since preschool when I learned how to hold a crayon. I think making art with Scratch is different because I can collaborate with other people and make something interactive that other people can use.
There was a song that said, "Happy, happy birthday." I put Scratch in there. It just became an instant hit on the site.
So you can see that it's got various components, and I know many of you have children who have been using Scratch. And of course, the program we're putting together is not just Scratch, which is a basic block building format of using this kind of game building, but you don't have to write code. And yet, for the older children, as you'll see in a few minutes, we have integrated in there a different kind of activity to make it more sophisticated and more interesting to them. But interesting, game-based is the future of learning. 81% of students say they're more productive when their learning has some game-like features to it. 92% prefer gaming as a leisure activity. Teachers are saying 1 in 5 of them are already using games as part of their educational curriculum. So those are important trends to keep in mind here. So I want to talk a little bit about who my collaborators are, who are the Game Challenge event team. We have, of course, I mentioned earlier, MIT Game Lab, the MIT Media Lab, which has the Scratch and something called the App Inventor. I've got Scott Novus, a great friend and former Disney game executive, and a company called Bravos, which is both virtual and in-person game production. So those are all the main people who are involved in this. I want to introduce each of both Rick and Scott to you in a short little clip. So Rick, as you see, Eberhardt is a director of the MIT Game Lab, and Scott, founder of Bravos.
Hello, my name is Rick Eberhardt, and I'm the program manager for the MIT Game Lab. For this project, the MIT Game Lab will be creating a game design curriculum and workshop experience for 13 to 18-year-old participants. Participants will have access to a customized short version of our edX online course, Introduction to Game Design, to complete at their own rate, which would prepare them for a multiple-day virtual design challenge at the end of the month. Prior to this challenge, participants will form teams around common interests. These teams will then be challenged to work together to identify a target audience, conceptualize a game or playful experience for that audience, conduct early prototyping and testing of their idea, and then communicate and pitch that idea to others. This is not a game programming experience, but rather a holistic design experience focused on rapid prototyping and iterative design methods. The Game Lab itself is technology agnostics, and this workshop will reflect this. Our participants will be required to consider the technologies available for prototyping and testing, and to choose those that best fit their process. By engaging with game design activities and the greater challenge, participants will experience a design methodology that, while very important in the creation of games, is also in use to the design for many other things that humans use.
So one of the things that Rick is doing is taking an actual course from MIT that essentially is on the intro to game design, and he's reformatting it to work for us on the game challenge, but it's not going to be academia. It's really going to be interactive in ways that the children, older children, will enjoy learning something new and, again, outside the box experience for them. Now I'd like to introduce you to Scott Novus. Again, he has got great experience with Disney, as well as creating this company called Bravos, who's our collaborator. And I'll let Scott give a little bit about himself.
Hi, my name's Scott Novus, and I am a fellow EO member. I'm a member of EO Arizona and US West. And I'm really excited to be partnered with MIT Endicott Beyond to bring this program to you. So, who am I and what do I know about gaming? I've been involved in the video game industry for, oh my goodness, almost 30 years now, making games for the Walt Disney Company and Activision and EA and many of the companies that you've heard of. I'm the founder of a company called Game Truck. We entertain millions of kids every year with video game parties. And I'm also the founder of Bravest Esports. We've moved headlong into the esports space. What we're trying to do is, and the way I look at it, is if we're talking about the experience economy, that's what video games are. We're literally designing experiences for other people. And so as a universal skill, as we go forward into this exciting new digital millennium, we need to have the skills, regardless of whatever background you're into, to design experiences that are compelling, engaging. Let's face it, attention is the scarcest resource on the planet. So those who know how to design compelling experiences that can hold our interest are going to have a leg up in a globally competitive economy. And so we're going to lay the foundations for how to think about interaction, how to think about play, but also discovery and engagement. And we're really excited to be working with MIT's Game Lab and their programming. And for the younger kids, we've got an even more exciting program that's going to get them interested and curious about the types of careers and paths that open up into that area. So I really hope you join us this April. I think we're going to have an absolutely amazing program, and we're excited to bring it to you.
As you can see, Scott is very high energy. And of course, as a parent and EO member, he understands the mindset of the decision making to be participating in this kind of a program. So how does the game challenge benefit the children? Just a few short little clips here in terms of what the benefits are. I know as a parent, and I started with the gaming world way back when my daughter was just about 4 or 5 years old, and Pac-Man was the only way to do it. And now it's a whole different world there. So increased brain power is an important aspect.
Many studies have actually shown increases in cognitive function after playing video games. One study in particular had participants play Super Mario 64 for 30 minutes a day over 2 months. Afterwards, the brains of these participants saw an increase of gray matter in areas associated with memory, strategic planning, and fine motor skills of the hands compared to those who had not played.
Another is paying attention building.
Surprisingly, action games can also increase attention to detail in individuals. Take a look at the following words on screen and yell out what color the word is as fast as you can.
A long time to figure this.
Green, blue, orange. Okay, now try a bit faster without me.
Brain gets twisted.
As we continue, it becomes more difficult because there is a conflict between the word itself and its color. Chances are, if you play more than 5 to 10 hours of action games a week, you're able to solve these problems much more quickly. This is because your brain is actually more efficient in the regions associated with attention.
And then educational, what we can use as an educational tool.
Video games can also be incredibly educational, and while you may not be playing some of your favorite games for this purpose, there are certainly many games that are used as effective teaching tools for both young and old. They may even help kids who suffer from dyslexia read more effectively. In a small study, dyslexic children who played regular video games ended up reading faster and more accurately, once again relating to improved attention skills.
And then this one really took me a while to get my brain wrapped around it in terms of the visual acuity. Try and think about playing along with it.
Think you're able to keep track of what's in front of your eyes? Keep an eye on the blue circle here. Eventually, it will turn yellow like all the others. I will then point to a circle and you tell me if it was originally blue. If you knew this ball wasn't blue, then you're a functioning human being. But let's make it harder. Staring at the middle of the screen can help to keep track of the blue circles. Was this circle originally blue? If you said no, you'd be right. One more time, but with 5 blue circles.
This really gets your brain working.
Was this one originally blue? Yep, it was. It turns out the average person can track about 3 to 4 objects, while practiced action gamers can track around 6 to 7.
That's amazing to me in terms of the mental acuity that begins to develop because your eye begins to connect with what you're seeing. And then finally, all of us who would like to have our children to be a doctor or surgeon, this is interesting.
Finally, as technology continues to transform medicine, surgeries are being completed with the insertion of cameras and remote-controlled tools. And these surgeries have very clear parallels to video games with a screen and a controlling device. Not surprisingly, young doctors with previous exposure to video games show fewer errors and faster completion than those without.
So, what are the benefits of game-based learning that's backed by science? Essentially, in terms of building self-confidence, 20% increase. In terms of better analytical skill, 4 times higher, again measured by science. It increases the ability to remember things by 90% because you have to hold that, as we just saw in looking at the various exercises that we went through. 90% increase. Real world skills, 20% better understanding of analytic and taking a look at that. More completed tasks. There are things that have to start from the beginning to the end, 3 times increase, and conceptual knowledge, an 11% increase by using games as a learning tool. So let's talk a little bit about the game challenge itself, the process. I know that Maren and the committee have raised several questions that have come to them about how it would work. Because there are various components, almost like watching where the balls are going. We've got several that are happening at once because we have to deal with designing the exercise and the games and the event and the fun for the various age groups, and they are different, obviously. So how will it work? Well, we've got a game creation and also an app creation tool that we're going to be using to showcase. We're going to be looking at the 2 age groups, 8 to 12, 13 to 18, and we have been very clear in understanding that even within the 8 to 12 group, there's probably one level of sophistication on the 8 to 9, maybe 10 level, and then 10 to 12. So we're essentially looking at 3 groups here to make sure that people are energized and also engaged and learning something. And then finally, the pre-workshops. I think it would be unfair for us to have just an event, a 3-day event, without something to start building skills and having the children begin to learn using the components and how do they build so that when we get to the actual event itself, that the learning will be already in motion, and how to work with mentors, coaches, again, what we call consultants. So the process, the objectives is to learn how to work in virtual teams, how to solve app and game creative problems, how to plan, how to outline and create sub-teams and work together, how to experiment, how do you formulate, test, and evaluate, how do you do play testing, what worked, what didn't work, why didn't it work, and then exposure to the MIT game experts and industry professionals, and finally, the experience of working in remote teams and using mentors. So we see the pre-challenge or the pre-workshops broken down over 2 days, 2 hours each of those days. And again, the groups 8 to 12. So the 8 to 12 will be looking at app creation, using something called the MIT App Inventor, create, design, and test, do some basic market research, understand the business of games, not trying to make them sophisticated marketers, but understanding what do people want and why do they want them. They're going to make a little bit of a pitch, so how to make a PowerPoint presentation, teaming 101, how do you work as teams virtually, and then they'll have assignments that they submit to the coaches. The 13 to 18-year-olds will be game creation, using that intro to game design, the one that Rick was talking about, how to create prototypes, truly a sophisticated look at the business of games, pitching their creative skills, teams of norming, storming, and forming, and then mentor reviews, getting feedback. Again, the event itself, 4 hours. These are the basic areas under the 8 to 12-year-old, app development, the app in Scratch, fundamentals, papers-based design, Scratch and app tutorials, design, build, experiment, revise, test, and evaluate, and then coach sessions that are supervised by our mentors. The 18-year-old, 13 to 18-year-old are looking at the program that Rick was talking about, which is actually extracted from an MIT curriculum on the intro to game design, again, prototyping, a starter project using game blocks, the business of games, activities, and doing a showcase of what they've created. So here's a quick view, because many have asked, well, my child has never really been exposed to writing code, but you get a sense here of how it all comes together.
Whenever a new project is created, an actor will automatically be added of your avatar. Mine happens to be Cody. So let's create a simple scene where two dragons talk to each other. First, this area is called the stage. This is where you can see your program run by pressing play. You can view it in full screen, and return to editing by pressing stop. Directly below is where you can see all your actors. Actors are the various components in your project. They can be characters, props, and anything you want to program. Let's add an actor. You can choose to build a character with our character creator, add a prop from our rich media gallery, or draw your own actor in our art studio. I'm going to add our dragons from the character creator. Now if you noticed, the coding area changed. That's because the coding area corresponds to the actor selected. Each actor has its own set of code.
So you can see that the building of a game is essentially related to the whole idea of moving puzzle pieces back and adding what kind of animation is desired, and also the amount of time that that animation is going to continue. So the design engine for the overall program of the game challenge is using the interactive media, stories, gaming, and animation, using Scratch and the MIT app Inventor. The outcomes to teach children and experiment, let them experiment on thinking creatively, working collaboratively, and reasoning systemically. How does it really work, and what can they do better? The design team, media lab, the game lab, and of course, Scott is going to be the overall manager of all the various components of the MIT activities. So the overview of the App Inventor, and this is targeted more to the younger children of the upper age of the younger group. They will be creating apps that can be used, assuming we are on iOS, which is in a beta form now, or Android. We're not quite sure. We will survey and find out what kind of devices are available. But the building blocks, you have App Inventor, and you've got, of course, the block editor. So the concept is still like Scratch. You're building an app, but you're using puzzle pieces to make it all come together and have active life. You can see here that the App Inventor is really active users of 59,000. This particular week, 245,000 new users, and it really grows. And so it, as you can see, the finalists in the lower part of the slide is showing how it all comes together. So the app designer, you've got a screen, you pull over from the left side, you bring them to that stage as the video had showed, and then you add properties to that in terms of the activities you would like it to do, and then this is what it begins to look like. So they can experiment and see what works, and then collaborate amongst their team, and also then reach out to mentors and game developers of how to make things better. In this case, using the App Inventor, creating a snake game. You can see the end result on the left side of the screen, on the right, how the puzzle pieces fit together. The larger or the older group of 13 to 18, the pre-workshops and what are games and how to do prototyping, how to create coherent games, how do you do digital prototyping, how do you make usable games, and the business of games. Again, this is all extracted from the MIT course, which is targeted to the undergraduate and graduate level. So this is just a quick little summary of how it all works.
Games reach across generations, cultures, and even civilizations to give people a shared experience. Whether it's a challenging game of chess, a friendly game of cards, or a simple game of peekaboo with a baby, games are all around us. No matter where you find yourself or in what type of group, there is a game you can play. There are games older than recorded history and games impossible to play without modern devices such as computers, tablets, and mobile phones. Just as playing games is a common activity, so is designing them. Ever altered rules for a round of tag or a bit of hide and seek? introduced house rules for a hand of poker, then you've dabbled in game design.
Taking the game and turning it into a digital.
I'm Eric Klopfer. I'm a professor of education at MIT, where I run the Scheller Teacher Education Program and the Education Arcade. I'm also a host for this course, Introduction to Game Design Development, the second in MIT's EdTech X series. This course aims to give people with little or no familiarity with formal game design methods an introduction to the skills game designers use to create new games. Some familiarity with games and an interest in them is strongly recommended. We will cover the basic elements of games, demonstrate game analysis, and talk about prototyping and iteration.
So you can see it does begin to show how to build them and the thinking behind all of that. At the end of the program, at the end of the challenge, we will be providing for all of the participants a certificate that they attended, of course with the Game Lab logo on that. And then finally, we're looking at what are the next steps from where we are now as I bring my presentation to a close. You know, what we see happening is you need to reserve a spot. We only have 100 seats available, so we'd like you to consider sooner than later. The EO committee has really done a superb job of negotiating on your behalf, and so we have offered an early bird discount effective through the end of business on the 16th of February. They can give you those details. We are also going to have some qualifying applications, just so we can understand what is a level, so we can make sure we can assign the children to the appropriate group. Finally, we'll want to do a survey of tech experience. We'll want to do a tech check. Some of the feedback we have from our MIT colleagues in India is that they've experienced sometimes connectivity drops. So we need to understand what is the bandwidth and the connectivity that's available from where the children will be working. And then finally, the timeline on this is the pre-workshops. These are all tentative dates, 2 days, 2 hours each, sometime between the 15th and the 17th of April. And then the challenge event itself is a 3-day, 5 hours each day between the 22nd and the 24th of April. And then finally, the Scratch Day. I know many have raised the question, well, can we come to Scratch Day? And under normal circumstances, if it weren't in a global pandemic, yes, there was one that was scheduled for the summer of 2021. That has been postponed until 2022. We're taking a look at how we might be able to work on something that might be virtual. But here's a brief overview of how that all comes together.
So, what is Scratch Day? Scratch Day is a time for people around the world to come together to meet, share, and learn about Scratch. Each Scratch Day celebration is unique, but they all share a playful spirit. Whether you're just getting started in Scratch, trying new materials to extend your Scratch knowledge, or collaborating with a new friend, Scratch Day has something for everyone. How can you participate in Scratch Day? To attend a Scratch Day, browse the site to discover an event near you. To host a Scratch Day, you can explore the site for activity ideas and tips for planning, then post your event for others to find. Last year,
so this begins to provide an overview of how that might come together. I know last year, 2020, there was a virtual event. We have not heard anything from the MIT Media Lab yet on how that might work going forward. But in any event, we would look forward to anyone who would like to participate to come to the MIT campus. I know the tuition in prior years was $250 per person. That included certain meals, et cetera, and the experience itself. So we're now ready to move on to the Q&A. So I'm going to stop the screen share at this point so I can interact with any of the questions that Maren might be able to raise with me. So I hope that this presentation did give you a good insight in terms of where we are looking at a design and how the program would work for your children.
Thank you, John, for the lovely presentation. Whoever has a question, please go ahead and unmute yourself and feel free to ask. You can also post your questions in the chat box if there's something you need to be addressed or clarified.
And also, if I may add, if someone has a question after this presentation is over, they can certainly send an email to you and you can forward it to me, and we're happy to respond in that format as well.
Absolutely.
Hello, can you hear
Hi.
me? Hi, John. Thank you for the presentation. This is Ekta Gupta from Delhi.
Hello.
Yes, my question is, my son is 13-year-old and the presentation says 5 hours a day in April, and the school would be on over here. So are we looking at a time post school hours, or the kids need to miss school for this?
Well, the days that the EO committee has asked for is, I believe, Thursday, Friday, and Saturday. So there would be 2 traditional school days. But we're certainly welcome to change that and shift it to maybe a Friday, Saturday, Sunday. We'll leave that to the committee to let us know.
Okay,
Sure.
thank you so much.
So the timing that we've decided is early afternoon. So mostly the kids' schools, etc., would be done. But let us know your preference so that we can finalize things accordingly.
Yes.
Sure. Thank you.
Hi, John and Priyanshi. This is Mahesh. Our son is about 10 and he already has some experience with Scratch and Scratch programming, right? And he's been tinkering around with it and so on. So would this take them to the next level, or how would you take that already into account? Right now he's moved past Scratch and he's doing other things, like literally he's working on Unity and so on, but obviously he hasn't done the basics, but it shouldn't be something that he gets bored with. So I'm just wondering how you would accommodate that. Or
Absolutely. I think Borden is the anathema. We don't want to go there.
Yeah.
Hi. So in any event, I mentioned earlier that the young group would be bifurcated into 2 age groups, depending on their experience and their talent. So what we have looked at is those with less experience might be using Scratch in the basic way. Those who had experience, as your son has, would be having, let's call it Scratch 301, more sophisticated, and then moving into app using App Inventor as opposed to just Scratch. So it has the same concepts, but it's much more sophisticated, much more interesting, and much more engaging. So we would gauge it that way from the experience of the surveys that we find, because we certainly don't want the children to be either bored or saying, why am I doing this? We would graduate them into a more complicated experience and the ability to be successful. And then even though they may be outside of their traditional experience, we have coaches to help them to go through the process, because it's not, I don't think it's good to just drop a child into something and say, okay, figure it out. So they can ask questions and they can begin to learn, as I mentioned a couple of times, how to work with consultants. So getting them ready to hopefully be entrepreneurs as well.
Awesome. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Seems like we're done with questions. So if there are no further questions, we're very, very happy to announce that we have a special early bird until 16th of February, wherein we've managed to get a 25 discount. Thank you, John and the team, for this. So the 2,495 has been reduced to 1,875, and the 2,895 has been reduced to 2,175. So please sign up quickly, and we have very limited seats. So we hope to have your children participate in the RI. If there's anything else, we would be happy to answer. Otherwise, we're good to close.
Quick question again, Priyanshi. So we just register online or respond to that email, or?
Yeah, we can resend the link to you. So there is already a registration link that has like a token amount, and then you'd be resent. That would confirm your registration. And after that, we'll send you the link to fully pay.
Okay, thank you.
All right.
Can I just ask a quick question, please? Sorry.
Yes, please.
John, my son is 13 years old. He's not had any experience in game design.
Okay.
Will he struggle with this, or can he be a fresher?
Again, I think that the survey that we're going to put together will give us a better inclination of experience level. If we feel, for example, that the 13 to 18-year-old group might be beyond his early experiences, then what we will do is put him into the upper group using the app Inventor as opposed to the academic approach of game design. So we will slot people where they're going to find success, but where they're going to be challenged a little bit to learn something more, but certainly not drop them into an environment where they can't be successful.
Thank you.
You're welcome. And thanks for the question.
Great. So thank you everyone for your time today. Thank you so much, John and team, for the taking out time and helping us through this whole process. And we're still available if you have any questions after that. Feel free to reach out to me or Maren or anyone in the committee. Okay. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Have a good day, John. Good night, everyone.
Thank you.